By the way, that city thing, let's go back here. Do the same thing with this. Put a line on, let's do this. Put an old school water tower up here. You know, we could just keep going. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, here's
Just
another
making
thing.
a simple outline and then just putting it through the back.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so simple. You know, and then I could, I could go in here and go, let's do this. Double click this, let's make it darker. Now, here's another little trick. See, I just Option Shift drag that to get a copy, right?
Yep.
So I'm going to go Command D, 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 D. So as long as I want to lock this, I want to lock this. I'm going to move all this over. Object, unlock all, and lock this back up again.
The balcony railing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or I could go. Let's do this. Let's shrink all these up. They feel a little too thick. And then I'm going to lock this. Now, somebody who's asking about grouping stuff, this is somewhere where I might group this. I don't want this part of it, so I'm going to go Control G, or I could go up here to Object and go Group right there. And it's grouped. So now when I do this, then I can just grab this Option, drag it down. You know. and start to play around with all that stuff. Does that make sense?
The difference between the grouping and joining, is it that joining it doesn't make the like one object?
Grouping, all it's doing is temporarily until I tell it not to. It's just saying when I grab this group, when I grab this thing that's part of a group, it's going to grab the whole group. Okay. Now, if I don't want it to do that, I go back up to the same thing under object. I select that group and I just go ungroup. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Now, if I can grab those objects individually within that group with the white arrow tool. If I want to move one a little bit or something like that, I can play around with it that way. But when I go with that black arrow tool to grab it, it'll grab the whole group, which makes it really easy. If I was doing a big cityscape back there and there's a bunch of stuff I want to repeat like that railing, you know, I could put it something way back there, grab that group, shrink it down, put it in the background, reduce the value of it and push it way into the background. But if you have shapes, so let's just take. If I grab all these shapes, you also have this tool here. Let me get rid of this here. You have what's called the align tool. It's right here in your control bar. It's also got its own palette. Align right there. There it is. And it's pretty self-explanatory. So if I go, here's the axis. This little line is your axis. So if I go, I want them all to the left, it'll do that and line them all up along the left. If I want them to all line up along a center axis, that's what that just did. If I want to do them all to left or right justified, that's that. This will put them all up to the top along that axis. This will just line them all up straight down the middle right here, so on and so forth. So if I go option drag, and in this case, I'm holding shift so it constrains. If I don't touch it, I can just go command D and it'll repeat. Now that'll also work in all sorts of different ways. So I'm going to go, now I'm going to go to my rotate tool. I'm going to put the anchor point right there. Option, drag it, and then Control D over and over and over again. If I drop a photo into Illustrator, okay? And this, let's say this is part of my layout or part of my illustration or whatever. I'm using a photo or something. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There's two ways that you can do this. Okay. Now, usually, so let's go. I'm going to go to a window, a palette called links right here. Okay. And you can see, here's my, this is this. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes.
And what this is telling me right here, the little link icon, is that this is in here as a link. Now, what that means is that if let's say that you're working at the office, okay, and then you go, I'm going to finish this at home, and you grab your Illustrator file and you throw it on a thumb drive or whatever. Then you go home and you open it. What Illustrator is going to do is go, hey, where's that file? Where's that photo? Because it's linked. So when it opens it up, what Illustrator does, every time Illustrator opens it up and there's a linked file in there, Illustrator goes out and grabs it and puts it in. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that means that the best way to work when you're working is to create a folder, and that's your project folder. Your Illustrator file lives in there. Then you can make a folder called images and you put your images in there and so on and so forth, because they need one. And if I take that image, by the way, on my computer and I move it somewhere, then Illustrator is going to go, whoa, 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 where'd that image go? I don't know where that image is. You got to put the image back, or you got to tell me where it is. One or the other. You got to go find it again and relink it, or that's it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
something else you can do is you could go here, and here's our flyout. It should be in here. Embed image. So I'm going to go embed image. It's going to change icons. So now that icon's gone. So what that's saying is this now I can take this. Now, if I forgot to do that and I took it home, it's embedded. So it will be there. Okay. It's not that's not the ideal way to work. Okay. You want to keep it linked. Now, here's another thing. If I go to the original source file, in this case, this JPEG, and I alter the file, when I go back to Illustrator, Illustrator is going to pop up and go, hey, that file was modified. You want me to update it? And you hit OK, and it updates the file. So if I'm jumping over to Photoshop and doing stuff at this thing, that's a very healthy or helpful thing, because then when I jump back to Illustrator, it'll just go, do you want me to update it? And you update it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So those are the two ways. Now, if I was going to send this to somebody, I might embed it, depending on who I'm sending it to. I might embed it because they're not going to mess with it. They're not going to do anything to it. So they don't need the original file. So then it's fine. Now, the way to negate this is, let's say that this is an illustration and I've got this in here and I've got this photo in here and I've got some type. I've got some type in here, okay? Here's your best way of doing this because it solves all these problems. So I'm going to save this, even though it's just 10. Come on. Here's my file. Now, here's the best way to do it. Instead of going, I'm going to take this home, you know, just grabbing my AI file, I go File. There it is right there. Package. You guys see that?
Yes.
Just remember it's where your save is, you know, save as, save a copy. Then you go down here to package. And then I'm going to go. I'm going to grab this and tell it to put it on the desktop. I'm going to say choose. And that's where it's going to put it. And then it's called temp folder. I could change that. And I want to copy links, collect links in separate folder, relink, copy fonts, create report. Okay, so I'm going to hit package. Usually pops up with a prompt. Let me see if it didn't. Well, there it is. So here it is, temp folder. You guys see that?
Yes.
So if I double click that, if I click it, it puts all the fonts related to this thing into a folder, which is really helpful. And it'll put, what's weird is I embedded it. If I didn't embed it, it would have a folder called link or called images, I think it's called, or links or something like that. So the only reason it didn't is because it's embedded. Okay, so when you do this, it just creates a nice, neat folder. It also creates this little report. Missing fonts, none. Spot color objects, doesn't have any fonts. Add dingbats, it tells you what it is. Embedded fonts, none. Linked images, none, because they're not linked. So on and so forth, okay? So if I click on my font, click on there, it gives me this Lips of Morum right away, but let's just go. Now, I have to hold shift to constrain that. And I'm going to go, here's my fonts. I'm going to go to Ed again. Here's my different ones in the family of Ed right here. Now, within that, we can also make a path. Now, if you click and hold your type, you'll get this type on a path tool, right? Click on the path, and it will follow the path. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, it's really a cool feature, actually. It's got these handles on here. You can do different things with it. Can't find the handle now. There it is. Oops. I can pull it down underneath. So I can do a bunch of different things with it. Okay, this one. Not doing anything, it's just space. So on and so forth. Okay. I can also create, let's do this. Let's create a star. Then I'm going to go click and hold an area type tool, click in here, and it'll fill it in the shape of that. Make sense?
Yes.
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 Sorry, I just always like to make sure that everybody's, everybody's getting that, I guess.
Will the text move even if you adjust the object after?
Yeah, it does this. Yes, it does. So let's go here. So yes, it conforms. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay. And you can come in here and edit things and mess around with it. Really, that's a really handy thing also, by the way. By the way, a lot of these type of tools, you'll find them also in InDesign, okay? Because InDesign has a lot of vector-based things. So let's go click and hold. We can go vertical type tool. And it does just what it says, just makes it vertical. Okay. Now you can do this too. Now, I think we talked about this real quick the other day, but if you want your rulers up here, you go Command R. And then I could put this here and get that way I'd know that these are lining up. I don't know where my handle went, but I just want to make sure these are lining up like that. When you want to get rid of that, if it's not locked, you can just do that. If it is locked, you could go here under View, and you could go to your guides and just put clear guides. Oh, the guides went. Oh, here's another thing. So this is active type. Everybody understands what that means. It means I can change it, I can edit it and all that, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
I can also go up here to type, and that's where your type tools are. And I can go create outlines, and it will turn it into a shape. So now it's a shape. Now, if I'm sending stuff to clients, it's finished. I usually outline the fonts. That way the font issue is not an issue anymore because it's just a shape. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Okay.
Yep.
So let's go. Now, the other thing in there is if I go like we have, let's go back. So now it's live type again. Under type, I can also go change case, and I can go lowercase, type, change case, title case. It'll just put caps on at the beginning. I like the uppercase one, it's nice. Sentence case. Does all that for you, okay? Under type, okay? I'm gonna make okay, there's this tool right here on your toolbar, on your tools, that is called the blend tool. Now, I could come in here, pick that tool, and start blending these together just by clicking on them, okay? I can also do it I could do it on these lines. And it'll start to blend those together. You guys see that?
Yes.
Okay, now, another way I could do it is I can select all of these and go up under object and go to blend and go blend options. And I can go smooth, it can go specified steps, specified distance. I'm gonna go, let's look at the specified, let's just do first, let's do this, let's see where it is. And I'm gonna go object, blend. Where the hell did my blend go? There it is. Blend, make. And it'll just blend them together, okay? I can also go object, blend, blend options. And I'm gonna go specified steps. I'm gonna go 50. We had 8, okay? Then I'm gonna go object make, blend make. And you can see how much smoother it is. You guys see that? Because I
Yes.
gave it so many more steps in there, okay? But here's a little trick with it that's kind of fun. So you have to make a copy of it. You need to make a couple of copies. And then let's say if I had, let's try this. So let's say that I did a whole, what do you call it? You know, Word or something that I hand did. I can go grab both of these, go up here to object, blend, replace spine, and it will put it onto that shape. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What's weird
Yes.
about it is it eats it. You can see how it ate it? It literally took it and put it over here, so it disappears. That's why I say make a copy. And you just keep making a copy until, you don't need them anymore. Let's talk about a clipping mask, okay? So let's say we have, well, let's go back to our photo just for the hell of it. And we'll start with this. Let's just start with this. Let's say we have a shape of some sort. Or just something. Oops. And I grab, and I make a shape, but let's just say it's the star shape. Let's make this a different color so we can see it. Oops, gosh dang it. Now, what you got to remember when you use a clipping mask, it has to be on top, okay? So I'm going to go grab both of these. And I don't know if you guys remember, we did that compound path last time or whenever it was, last week or whatever. It lives right next to it. So there's a compound path where you can go clipping mask make. And it makes a mask out of it, okay? So if I have, to make it a little more, if I have anything, I'm going to take all of this. I'm going to object, arrange, send to back, because it has to be on, my clipping mask shape has to be on top. Select all of it. Object, clipping mask, make. If I take this, I don't know if it'll work good with this one. We'll try it. Let me find where it is in my thing because I haven't set up my tools. Right here, puppet warp. It looks like a little thumbtack. And you can see it does these, this is a point. So what it's gonna do is if I put multiple points in here, I can actually move this around based on those pivot points. It's a very handy tool because if I have a simple character and the arm's out here, I used to have to remake that arm, and now I can just sort of manipulate it a little bit if I want to change the pose a little bit. If I wanted to put like simple shadow values on this guy's face that were soft, I could do something like, this isn't going to be what I would do, but you'll get the point. I could take something like this in the right spot. And to get like a soft, I don't know, like a cheek mask or something like that. Just on it, you know. I could go here. Up to effect, blur, Gaussian blur. And just dial it in. And get that little soft sculpted blur. Now also, if you go, it's up here under view. I think it's view using CPU. No, it's outline. It's outline, which is Command Y. Okay, so if I go Command Y, it just shows me the line version of it, which can be really handy. Now, here's another thing why it's handy. If I want to grab this back here, I can go through this and grab stuff. Okay, which you can't do if I go back Command Y again. Obviously, I can't do that. And sometimes it just comes in handy when you have a real tangled illustration with a lot of line work and you need to get to something, you go to Command Y and go right through it and click that thing in the back. Whereas normally it'll be trying to grab other stuff and things like that. Does that make sense?
It does. So the shortcut was Command Y on Mac, but what would, if you were to go through the toolbar at the top, where would you
It's
go?
right here. View, outline. So your brushes are here. Hang on. By the way, I don't know if we talked about this, but right here in your stroke, under your controls right here, you can pop that down and you can control what the edge is or the end point is. So here's the end point, square. I can go here and I could, you know, make it a rounded edge or whatever I want to do. Okay. But I'm going to go here to my brushes right here. And there's different palettes in here. Okay. This is just the stock one. So I could go here and I could get this kind of inkier line, or I can go to my flyout menu and I can go open brush library. Like artistic. I use this one a lot, this calligraphic one. Oops, no, not calligraphic, I'm sorry. I use open brush library, artistic, charcoal. And I use it a lot for texture, actually, okay? So if I go here, right? Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, here's another use for that. Let's say that I take this guy. I'm going to group them. So now when I grab them, I'll grab all of it. And let's go. Now I would finesse this shape a lot more. And now I'm going to send it to the back. Find a color that's not so screaming. I could give this a line and then go to my brushes and go to, let's say, let's just do this one. Make this a little fatter. You can see I can start to get a little bit of a broken kind of painterly edge there. You guys see that?
Yeah,
Mhm.
nice.
So instantly sort of a painterly edge. Okay, so start thinking like that. Okay, now another thing, and I have a tree, correct?
Yes.
So let's say that I go and make a line. I could use that to get a nice bark texture. If the light was coming from over here. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Simple, right?
Yes.
I could probably even come over here, grab. Let's see, let's grab this. Get a cool thing going on the other side. And I'm going to take that in my transparency palette and pull down the opacity. Just a little bit. You can start to get a little tree idea there. But another thing not just me, but people use this kind of the clipping mask and stuff for. Let's go back to that tree. Okay. Another thing I could do. Let's just take this tree. And I'm going to combine it all. I'm going to go to our, whatever you call it, combine all that, or Pathfinder. And then I'm going to load a different set of brushes in here. So I could go to brushes, back to that same flyout menu, open brush library, other library, because I've got store-bought brushes that I bought a long time ago that work really good. But let's go. Because we're going to talk more about texture later. But we're starting to talk about it a little bit now. And these are my, so I could also go, I don't know, maybe down here at the bottom, it's got some mossy stuff going on. So maybe I could go. So we're getting this nice little scatter thing. You guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's take it into a greener area. It's too bright. We're getting very Ivan Earl here, which is kind of cool. So I could go, let me knock down this because it's a little bright. I'm just going to pull down the opacity a little bit. That's now I have different brushes here I could play around with. See which one looks nice. Too much. I think that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this shape that I created. I'm going to pull it to the top. Select both. Create a clipping mask. I got a line there. I don't know why that's in. Drop it right over that. And there it is. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Now, sometimes you could use this if you had an object. Some kind of object that had form. Like it could be anything. And I could do the same thing. Or actually, let's just go to a darker value here. So let's go. And then let's assign our gouache brush to it. Let's go a little darker. Pull this a little lighter too. There. And let's find a nice gouache brush. A little too much. Too much. Let's try that. Oop, too much. We would do the same drill. Now I'm going to duplicate it, bring it all the way to the top. Just grab this and this, make a clipping mask, and it kind of shades it. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if I took this, mirrored it. That's the wrong shaping. Don't need to mirror it. Oh, good. Maybe this one goes a little lighter. Oh, so we have this in front of it. So there's what we have right now. This back one doesn't need to be included. So I'm just going to go, this is in front. We start to get this nice little painterly kind of idea. Make sense?
Yes.
We could go a step further with this and go. Effect, blur, Gaussian blur. Get a little more of a shine on it. Okay, does that kind of make sense?